Vegetarian Victoria, and we've just made a great booklet which he was involved in doing a lot of the proofreading for, and he's always doing lots of work for Veg Vic, has been doing for many years, and also for World Vegan Day. He's been the MC for well over 11 or 12 years now of World Vegan Day, right in the early days of its conception, and now World Vegan Day has become so big, and Jason Carstens has been also a big integral part of that as well. So Jason has been vegan for many years, and he'll tell you about his story, but the most important thing about Jason is that he's an incredibly informative guy, but he's also very enthusiastic, and he's one of the hardest working guys that you'll ever meet, and most importantly, he's been a very close friend of mine, and I'm very proud to say that we have today on stage Jason Carstens.
It's the truth. Thank you, and thank you both for coming. I really appreciate it. It's truth of the matter is, I only finalised this document at about well, maybe 7:30 this morning, and I thought to myself, well, that's so busy. But really, it's 31 years in the making. So hopefully that comes through. First of all, I just wanted to just excuse me if I refer to my notes, because I've done the talk a few times, but never to an audience this large, and particularly to an audience that not necessarily vegan or vegetarian. Can I, on that note, before I get to know me, I'd like to get to know you. By show of hands, can I get hands up if you're vegan, please? Wow, that's a huge percentage. Awesome. And what about if you're vegetarian? Hands up. Yeah, a couple over there. And what about if you're neither vegetarian nor vegan? Can I have a show of hands? Yeah, excellent. And look, guys, don't hang your head, because it's you guys more than anybody I'd like to extend my welcome to, because you've crossed the fence, and a lot of people aren't open to being here and listening to and being a part of this day. So thank you and congratulations and welcome. It is a huge day, over 15,000 people last year, and as Mark said, I watched it grow from very humble beginnings. So much goes into organising it. So sharing the gift is what I call the talk, and a bit about me. My name is Jason Carstens. I'm a vegan of 28 years and a vegetarian of 31 years. So there was a 3-year transition period for me. Can you all hear okay? Am I talking loudly enough? Yeah, I often don't need the microphone, in fact. I'm the Vice President of Vegetarian Victoria, a not-for-profit group that provide information and education for free, some of which I'll hand out at the end of this talk, and we have our stall just behind the talks area there as well. I'm also a committee member of World Vegan Day, and this is my 11th straight year as MC, all voluntary and for a noble cause that resonates with my soul more than anything. So the plan for today is I'm just going to do a talk called Sharing the Gift. I'll discuss the title shortly. I'll talk about why I became vegetarian and eventually vegan. I'll talk about ways I used to protest and how I've discovered more effective means for myself over the years. And that's not to discount any method that creates awareness or education by other purposes. I'll explore some reasons why people won't listen or don't want to listen, and I'll finish by presenting a 3-step compassionate strategy for espousing the vegan message and lifestyle, or how to share the gift. So, why did I become vegetarian? I was 16 years of age, a year ago. I was 16 years of age, and at 16, I knew nothing more than girls and football, as you'd imagine, and Mum was the breadwinner. She did all the cooking and all the cleaning, and I came home from school one night. She was really excited. She says, "We've got fresh chicken for dinner tonight." And I went, "As opposed to what?" And she said, "Well, it's not frozen." I said, "What's the difference? Chicken's chicken, yeah?" And she said, no, the frozen one's like in the freezer. It could be there a week, a month, that it doesn't go off. And a bit of a pattern break starts to occur, and I'm going, And this one on my plate was alive maybe this morning. And she went, yeah, or yesterday. And that just didn't sit well with me. For the first time, I was taken out of my thought pattern. It was a real pattern breaker. And from that moment on, I never looked back and became vegetarian. I went vegetarian for strictly moral reasons. The truth of the matter is I thought I would die. No protein, iron, B12, but I didn't care. I didn't want to partake in a world of violence. If only I knew then what I know now about health and the environment, I'd have gone vegan for either of those reasons as well. But we learn as we grow, as we change our vibration and our lives. Now, that was 28 years ago. There was no such thing as vegan options or restaurants there. There weren't even any vegan restaurants, very few vegetarian, but now they're popping up virtually by the week, which is really encouraging. And when I told people that I was vegan in restaurants, they'd say things like back then, "Oh, that's no problem, we have the chicken or the fish." Or if I got offered one more veggie stack, I might have put aside my non-violent vegan principles and had my dealings with the chef. But vegetarian was good enough for 3 years, and one time I was cooking in a cafe and I ordered a chocolate mousse, and the chef said to me, "Well, if you're vegetarian, why are you having chocolate mousse?" I said, "Why not?" And he said, "Well, because of gelatin." I said, "What's gelatin?" I didn't know. And he told me about horse bone marrow and hooves, etc. And at that point I realised that if I was vegetarian for moral reasons, purely, which I was, that vegetarian in fact was no longer an option. I had to go vegan if I was truly believing in my principles, or I had to say, hey, it's all too hard, and go back to eating meat pies at the football. And that was, 28 years ago, and I took the vegan option, and it's the best decision I ever made, and there'll be no looking back. There was no Facebook back then, or its countless support groups. In fact, there wasn't even any public internet. So it wasn't easy being vegan back then, as it is now, and I'm so glad that it's getting easier and more normalised by the day, and events like this evince that. In 1989, I was a victim of a car accident at about 100 k's an hour. Plus, I had on a country road, I had my feet up on the dashboard, as a passenger obviously, or you could well expect trouble, I dare suggest. And the impact was immense, and luckily for me, my feet were on the dashboard, and the impact just went all the way through the legs, and some of my family are here now. They probably remember the 3 months I was in hospital. My knees, my ankle, my pelvis was shattered to the extent that they couldn't do anything. They just screwed like a scaffold in there, and they said, if it heals again, you'll walk. We can't do anything. If it doesn't, you won't. And when I finally got into rehabilitation, they told me when I left after 3 months that I'd be walking unaided in 6 months. Well, I was a bit of a smart aleck back then, and 6 weeks later, I literally jogged past a physiotherapist at Epworth Hospital in Richmond, tapped on the window and went, "Hey!" And there I was, like, that was 6 weeks later. And I know now, but I didn't know then, it's because I didn't have the dairy in my diet that was leaching the calcium. The opposite to what we're taught, but I won't go into that. That's Mark's job later on. There was another story in hospital where they served me meat. And I got the nurse to verify that, and I jumped out of my bed into my walking frame on my wheelchair or whatever it was, and it's a long time ago, and I stormed through the hospital and to the food services department, where a lady stopped me and she said, "Where do you think you're going?" And I said, "I'm going to have words with the head chef. I'm vegetarian. I've been here 2 months. You know that every meal, 3 meals a day, I'm going off my head." And she goes, "How dare you talk to me like that? I bet you don't have the audacity to speak to the head chef like that." I said, "That's exactly what I was trying to do before you got in my way." So I made my way to the head chef and I said, "Mate, there's meat in my food. What are you doing?" He's a big guy, about 6'8", stirring a big pot with a wooden spoon. And he goes, "I don't know." I said, "What do you mean you don't know? You're the chef." He said, "Well, it came out of a can." And I said, "Terrific, you're a canned food cook and you still can't get it right." And he threatened to throw the spoon at me. Well, that's really going to help my recovery, isn't it? But there's a more positive story, because at the end of my rehabilitation at Epworth Hospital, the chefs there weren't happy, apparently, that they had to prepare for a vegan. They said, "Why is this guy special?" And the dietitian, Yvonne, I remember her, she explained that the doctors, the nurses, the chefs, the surgeons, everybody was part of my healing process, and that was part of their job, and take it or leave it. And so they had to take it. Well, my last day, as I was about to leave, they came up to me, and what I noticed over the last couple of months was that people were starting to order what I ordered, just for variety purposes. They didn't even know they were eating vegan, because it was just the same old potato and mash and bangers and mash every day for them. And the chef came up to me and he said, "Look, when you first came here, we thought, why are you so special? And we didn't like to cook vegan, and we didn't think that we had to give you special treatment. But when we were told that we had to take it or leave it, we decided to turn the negative into a positive and to compete with each other to see who could come up with the most creative vegan meal." And he said, "You've seen the results, and I'd like to thank you, Jason, because after 2 months of you being here, we're now far better chefs for the experience." So it was a little positive effect that I had by being vegan in hospital, and hopefully those chefs are still cooking vegan today. So back then I was trying to change the world too, but by very different methods. I'd attend the old Rainforest Action Group protests where there are ASIO agents swarming on the rooftops, and I'd give them the moon, wave at them while they took photographs and all the little stuff you do when you're a little punk. And they took photos from the rooftops, but nobody wanted to listen, of course. These days, if I was ever to attend a protest, I'd certainly attend in a suit and tie. Vegans are already marginalised, and I want to show the world that it's normal people that care as well. And it's also the attitude behind the protest. Someone once said to Mother Teresa, would you come to an anti-war rally? And she said no, but if you have a pro-peace rally, I'll be the first one there. So it's all about the attitude towards the methods of protest as well. I was so evangelistic, and a little pseudo-mohawk, a pseudo-punk with a holier-than-thou, I'm right and you're wrong attitude, but I found that it gets you nowhere. I was cheeky too. I had all the comebacks, and when people say to me, oh, I love my meat, I'd go, like you sort of, like chew your bicep? No, like my steak. Oh, sorry, you mean the cow's meat, not actually your meat. Okay. Facetious, got a bit of a laugh, maybe a bit of a slap, but didn't really get me anywhere. So I've tried to come up with more constructive means, which I am getting to. And what about, I always wanted to know about the ready-made excuses and the platitudes that people just trot out. Where do they come from? As vegans, we've all heard it ever since we turned vegan. You got to die of something, or you get hit by a bus tomorrow. We've all heard that, haven't we, yeah? Who writes these things and how does it catch on? Everyone says the same thing. You've just got to wonder. Well, my response to that is, I'm talking about living, not dying. It's about how you live, it's about how you die. Surely you'd rather your heart stop in the middle of the night than convalesce in poor health for years, wouldn't you? I certainly would. It's about living healthier and longer and more in tune with nature. So I say sharing the gift. What is the gift? It's the gift of being vegan, and I feel it's my duty to share that gift. And that's part of what I'm doing here today. It is my belief that anything that is going to assist with one's health first and foremost is the greatest gift of all. All the research is out there. A lot of it is available for free here today. If you're vegan already, pick it up, educate yourself further. If you're not, have a look, pick it up, make your own mind up once you have an educated appraisal. Let me list a few of the basic facts to give you some idea of what I'm talking about and get a gauge roughly on who knows about these proven facts. So just by show of hands, does anybody, who knows that meat and animal fats are acidic and a major carcinogen? Hands up if you know that. Great, wonderfully educated audience, fantastic. That's not normally the case, trust me. Who knows that dairy leaches rather than provides calcium? About half of us, okay? Because it's acidic and the body has to neutralise the acid, and it does that with calcium from our teeth and our bones. But the other talkers today will go more into that. We're blessed with some wonderful speakers today. And who knows that casein, which is a milk protein, is one of the major dietary carcinogens? Who knows that? Yeah, getting smaller. Okay, yeah, casein. Yeah, milk protein. #1 dietary carcinogen. T. Colin Campbell said in the China study, when they removed it from the diet and put it back into the diet, it was like a light switch being flicked on and off with cancer. Cancer on, cancer off, just with casein. That's not milk or steak. That's the dairy protein. And who knows, does anyone know about Otto Warburg? Has anybody heard of Otto Warburg and his works? Russell? In 1931, ladies and gentlemen, 1931, 85 years ago, Otto Warburg won a Nobel Prize. He was a physiologist for discovering that no cancer cell can exist in an alkaline environment. 85 years ago, there was a cure for cancer. Nobody needs to die and suffer from cancer and chemotherapy like my mother. Absolutely nobody. 85 years ago. I don't know about you guys, but that makes me a little annoyed. And I'm here to tell you the truths, or to expose you to methods whereby you can expose yourself to the truths. Just for interest's sake, with health and nutrition, I actually won a few nights on a TV quiz show a few years ago where I got a few vegan references past the cutting room floor, not as many as I tried on. And now I'll be the first to admit that the questions were very easy, but the mental acuity and recall proves that I'm not missing out on any essential omega oils. And better still, I'm getting them in the correct proportions as nature intended in whole flaxseed and chia seed. All the opposite to what we're told. And who knows about bobby cows? What happens to the baby calves? Yeah? After 17 hours, when the colostrum levels become quote unquote safe for human consumption, any time between that 17-hour period and 3 days later, bang on the head. That's what happens to these calves. So we can have milk in our coffee. Terrific. So you can see why I say that being vegan is a gift. So this gift of being lucky enough to be vegan also saved Mother Earth from all of our destruction and stopped the pointless slaughter of billions of sentient beings, then surely that is the greatest gift of all. And when you consider all the lies and misinformation and hidden agendas that you've sifted through to arrive at such a conclusion to become vegan, that's a gift too, or perhaps more so a calling. People say it's my choice, but it's not your choice. It's somebody else's choice being imposed upon you. Real choice is our birthright. It's your choice, but it's not a choice at all if it is not based on facts. So we get to the crux of my message, and that is to get educated, and I'll help you with that shortly too. Mark does a lot of work in that regard. Okay. Now, I'm going to say that given the above matrix of deception and lies, that a vegan lifestyle is more a calling. A little voice inside that begs you to find answers because intuitively things just don't seem right. I regularly put it to people that if I could provide a plant-based alternative to a steak that had exactly the same texture, taste, price tag and supposed nutritional benefits, and even mock blood dripped out when you went through it with a knife to simulate the dining experience. So everything was exactly the same and every other feeble excuse was covered. Which one would you choose? The violent or the non-violent option? Now, unless they're being totally dogmatic or outright contrary, everyone chooses the substitute provided all of their imposed needs were met. Now, I'm not saying that this product does exist, and I'm glad that it doesn't, as it would be a malicious poison. But what I am saying is this. By everyone that chooses the non-violent option, they all had that little voice inside their head, that intuition, the desire to go vegan if only they knew how. People call me extreme as a vegan, but when you know with all of your heart and soul, as per all the above examples, that the killing is wrong, yet persist to engage in its consumption despite this knowing, now that seems extreme to me. Following your heart does not. So let's get some facts and stop swallowing the fear, the death, the poison, the cruelty, the chemicals, but most importantly, stop swallowing the lies. Animals know when they're about to be slaughtered, and the fear courses through every sinew. Then some people eat them, and we are what we eat. If we eat fear and violence, inevitably we live in fear and violence. Look around at the world today. Who has the audacity to tell me that I'm wrong? Let's list a few of the Goliaths that we're challenging and understand that we are being indoctrinated and programmed from birth. We're looking at pretty much everything that shapes our society and life as we know it. Firstly, there's our parents, our doctors, our schools, our religions and teachers, all of which I'm sure are well-meaning but equally indoctrinated. Then there are the ones with the more questionable motives, but equally, if not more influential. I talk about banks, the corporations, the media, our politicians, and the omnipotent God of gods, TV and its advertising. Hang on, Jason, are you here to tell me that they're all wrong? Too right I am. They are all false icons that detract from our real power which lies within and not without. The power to make real choices. And real choices can only be made with real facts. Otherwise, it's more indoctrination. I can't offer you black or white and say that I've given you real choice when every other option in the light spectrum has been completely and utterly ignored. You see, as a famous American songwriter and poet, Leonard Cohen said, there is a crack in everything, and that's where the light gets in. And that light is information. The word educate comes from Latin educo, which means to bring out. That's where we get our word educe. It doesn't mean to put in or indoctrinate, quite the opposite. And this is what I talk about when I talk about getting educated, to bring out what we intuitively know. So with such a powerful and healthy message, why don't people listen? There is a quote that I love in an attempt to explain this, and I don't know to whom to attribute it, and it says that when people found out that the world was flat, they weren't angry that it was round. When they found out that it wasn't flat, when they found out that the world's round and that it wasn't flat, they weren't angry that the world wasn't flat. Sorry, they weren't angry that the world was round, they were angry that the world wasn't flat. Because nobody wants to be lied to or find out that they have been lied to since day dot. Try telling anyone that all of the institutions of society that I mentioned earlier were all wrong, and you can see why any mention of veganism is like a cross to a vampire. I was interviewed on ABC Radio recently when they wanted to know why people were angry at vegans. Now, I wouldn't buy into that angle for a moment, telling them that it was all positive and changing for the better, but the presenter kept pressing, fishing for some negativity and controversy. I told him what I just mentioned about the fact that we challenge everything and every comfort zone. He actually agreed with me. And the next day, him and his whole family went vegan, and I nearly got knocked out by some very low-flying pigs. Clearly he didn't go vegan, but I tried. But there is a nicer way to get to those messages, which I am coming to. And that's the key to why people won't listen. It's about being removed from their comfort zone. When people are taken out of their comfort zone, they feel fear. Try telling a smoker all the scary health implications and expenses, etc. They're likely to agree with you 110%. But when you finish talking and they walk away, what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to light up a cigarette, aren't they? Absolutely they are, because that's their comfort zone. There's that old joke you've probably all heard, how do you know when there's a vegan at the party, yeah? They go, don't worry, they'll tell you. Well, I like being that vegan because I see it as my social duty. The analogy I use, it is someone that has been beaten up and is lying in the gutter bleeding. I need to call the ambulance. It is my social and humane duty. In this analogy, the person lying in the gutter is you and the planet, and the ambulance is veganism. But there's a more powerful way to share your message than with fear, and that is with love, compassion, understanding, and education. Don't just demand a call for action, provide others with resources to do it themselves. Help provide the ladder that climbs the wall of deception. If you aren't vegan, what better opportunity than today to self-educate with all the resources at your disposal? Get educated and help to educate others. Help others to make a real choice. If you're already vegan, get more educated. Help yourself and help others again. The way I see it, you can save one puppy, one cow, a goat, or even a herd. Or you can ban live exports, which is all fantastic. But if you educate just one person, you can save millions of animals. Firstly, by what they don't consume, and secondly, by whom and how many they tell, who they share the gift with. This is best stated, in my opinion, by American author Henry David Thoreau, who so eloquently said that for every 1,000 people striking at the branches of evil, there is only one striking at the root. So let's look at a simple 3-step strategy that I believe does this effectively. Firstly, take an interest or get others to take an interest in veganism purely for health reasons. Get them talking about their favourite subject, themselves. It's not hard to get people to be selfish, I've discovered. They do it quite well naturally. I'll cut this bit short because we're running short of time, but basically, we wouldn't, if everyone just went vegan for selfish reasons, we wouldn't have to worry about animal welfare or the waterways or the environment. Everything would just look after itself if everybody went vegan for purely selfish reasons. What a wonderful planet. Secondly, I found it best not to use the word vegan. Life has taught me that it's not the best conversation starter. I used to take the acid-alkaline approach. The human body is like a garden and needs the right pH levels to thrive. We need to be slightly alkaline, and other animals like flies need to be acidic, and that helps decompose our waste matter, and so the ecosystem does its thing round and round. It just so happens that all the alkaline foods are plant-based and all animal products are acidic. There you go. T. Colin Campbell's latest book, Whole, uses the term whole food plant-based, and that sounds way softer than vegan to the uninitiated, trust me. He talks about eating the whole vegetable, fruit, and not extracts or isolates or supplements, as the whole food works in synergy to provide all of our needs as designed and prescribed by Mother Nature over billions of years. Thirdly, and this is by far the most effective means, defer to the experts. Everyone thinks a vegan wants an argument. I don't. I actually just want to help. So instead of engaging beyond your depth of knowledge, defer to people like T. Colin Campbell, who wrote the China study. That's the greatest epidemiological study ever undertaken. 880 million people over 30 years, 660,000 researchers with very little to zero genetic diversity, putting that it's all genetic argument to bed. Defer to these experts, Dr. Esselstyn, McDougall, Clapper, Dr. Barnard, Dr. Greger, countless other visionaries and revolutionary doctors that cure with food, not drugs. Veggies, not Valium. Capsicum, not chemo. which took my beloved mother, and education, not lies. The work has all been done. As Sir Isaac Newton said, the reason I see so far ahead is that I stand on the shoulders of giants. I don't have to do the research or the experiments or write the books. It's all been done. Stand upon the shoulders of those giants. So to summarise the 3-step strategy, get interested and get others interested in their own health. Talk about acid, alkaline and whole food plant-based rather than vegan, at least as your opener. And defer to the experts. Stand on the shoulders of those giants. Now I have some of those references which we're going to hand out at the end of this talk here, and we've got a new book that we're going to launch this afternoon. Who's familiar with our work at Vegetarian Victoria, Eating Up the World? That's all the environmental impacts of a vegetarian diet. It's a new one. Eating Up the World, we're launching it today. It's the health impacts, all the summary of the health, and I've also got some business cards with some references to hand out as well. But we must lead by example. The most effective means by which I've helped others in the past is by leading by example, because people follow good examples. I never get sick. I don't remember what the flu is, and again, I used to get it once a year. I'm always vibrant and happy and excited about life, my life, animals' lives, and life on this planet. So all I ask you to do is get educated and help others to get educated. And if I've gone in part, in a little way, to doing that today, then my life has been a life well lived. Thank you. Please come and help yourself to this literature. All those people I talked about, don't argue with me. Argue with them if you dare. There's all the books and all the movies to watch. Help yourself, it's all free. Get educated, get vegan and get happy.